Hello, everybody, and welcome to World Sprout. We have another very exciting event for you today. Today, we're traveling down to Mexico, specifically to the state of Sonora, to learn from Linda Silva about Mexican food and kind of its role in Mexican culture. And so with that, I'll go ahead and introduce Linda Silva. Linda is from Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico. She is a university student at the Universidad de Sonora. And she is a huge food enthusiast and really loves sharing her culture with other people. So we're really excited to speak with Linda today and to see what she's got for us. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Linda.
Hi, David. Thank you so much for your introduction. I'm very excited and I want to thank you for giving me the platform to talk about my culture. So let's get started. I will start by talking first a little bit about my city, and then I'll just go on with the rest. Okay. So can you see my screen? Can you see a presentation?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Okay, so today I'm going to discuss Mexican food, specifically Sonora's food scene. So first, where I'm from Hermosillo, Sonora. It's the capital of Sonora. Sonora is the second largest state in Mexico after Chihuahua. It's very small. Everyone here knows each other. It's very difficult not to find someone when you're out. So you better dress well because it's just very, very small. Everyone knows each other. So here are some places from here that everyone knows. First of all, here's the Cathedral. There's always a wedding going on inside. It's in a plaza called Plaza Zaragoza that's just very, very full of food stands and performers like musicians, and there's always plays and stuff like that. Then here's El Cerro de la Campana. It's a very steep hill and there's a coffee shop on top, and you can go and just have a view of the city. I don't like going there because I'm a very fearful driver and I don't like steep hills, but it's pretty cool. And here's Playa de Quino. It's a beach that is about half an hour car ride from Hermosillo. It's one of my favorite places to be and to swim. It's very peaceful and it's really pretty. Okay, so where is Sonora? So Sonora is in the north part of the country. It was important to me to point that out because Mexico, like I know most countries or every other country, each state is very different from one another, like very, very different, even from city to city. But the biggest differences are from the north to the south. There's a lot more food variety in the south of flavors, textures, colors. The variety is way bigger than in the north. And I'm going to explain why. And also there's some influence from the United States in food, but not also in food, but in the culture. So I have a little game, but I will just pass through it. So whoever wants to play along at home that's watching this, you can pause it and you can try and play and test your Mexican food knowledge. So can you guess? So guess if you're able to. This is mole. It has many ingredients, but it's has two ingredients that make it both sweet and spicy, but it's actually a bunch of spices. So which are these two ingredients that make it both sweet and spicy? So I will pause now so you can pause it and then you can play it. So it's chocolate and chile. When I was younger, I didn't know that mole was made of chocolate and chile, and I was actually very surprised because it has a very unique taste. And these tacos are all different parts of a cow. Can you guess which is which? Okay, so you can pause here. This is cabeza, which means head. It's usually eaten for breakfast. Tripa, which are, I'm not sure, like guts, also for breakfast, but can also be eaten for dinner, but mostly breakfast. And finally, lengua, which is tongue and also for breakfast. Carne asada is the one that is mostly eaten at night, but the rest for breakfast. So are there any food differences across Mexico? Mexican food is as diverse as its own land. Did you know Mexico is a mega diverse country? So Mexico has a ton of ecosystems. Sonora is mostly, well, it's xerophiles, which means cacti, which pretty much means desert. It's extremely hot here all the time. Sometimes we reach 50 degrees, which is 122 Fahrenheit. We have been the hottest city in the planet a few times, but we have broken that record. So that's the reason why we don't have that much variety as in the south, because as you can see here, there's a lot of purple, which means tropical evergreen forests. There's more bodies of water. We have a lot of water shortages all the time. So there's not as much vegetation. The vegetation we have is mostly adapted to the extreme hot weather. And like seasons here, like the term exists, but there's no difference between summer, fall, and spring. It's always very, very hot and it barely rains, and then it's winter and it's very cold. And almost 70% of the world's flora and fauna diversity exists in Mexico. So it's very, very diverse, and it's one of the things that I love the most about my country. So I'm gonna talk about the big cattle farms, Mennonite cheese, and fish and seafood from the north. I'm just gonna mention fish and seafood real quick because there's not much to it. We do have 2 beaches nearby, San Carlos, and there's Quino Bay. I'm talking about Hermosillo, so we do have plenty of traditional seafood dishes, and of course, there's more bodies of water in the rest of the country. But I'm going to focus on big cattle farms and Mennonite cheese. So the north is a lot more industrialized than the south and rest of the states. Part of that is because we're close to the US, but also is what we can focus on cattle farms because we don't have as much vegetation as other states. There's actually, if you look up Mexican food guides, you will see that Sonora has the absolute best beef. It's very, very good. And I've always seen people mention that beef here is the best. And the reason why is because of the diet of the cows, the native grasses that they eat here, and they eat also oregano and mesquite, which is a tree that you might know, like it's not only in here. And also because of the weather, they are very, very protected all the time, so they don't get dehydrated, so they're usually enclosed. And yeah, so it's pretty big part of Sonoran culture, like ranches, and I believe 85% of the territory of Sonora is dedicated to raising cows. And now the Mennonites. So Chihuahua is very well known for their cheese, and that's because of this group that migrated, I believe, from Russia and then to Canada, and then the president in 1922 accepted them to come because they were being not fully accepted because they wanted to embrace the law of God, and they couldn't do that fully in Canada. So they came here and they have their land and they contribute to Mexican economy. However, they are not really part of Mexican society. They're very secluded. They're not also in Mexico. And lately there has been a lot of drug issues in here. It's been really bad. So a lot of Mennonites have returned to Canada, even Russia, but there's still, I think, about 100,000. And most of these groups are still very, how do you say it? Like, I think only 20% are more liberal than the rest. And so cheese in the north, the best cheese is Mennonite. The impact of the Spanish colonization in Mexican gastronomy. So Mexico, as a lot of other places, was colonized by Spain, and that's the reason why Mexicans are every color under the sun. A lot of people sometimes see someone that might not fit their stereotype, and they might think they're not Mexican enough, but that's not true. The reason why Mexicans are so diverse looking and also why it's such a diverse country, it's because we are a product of that colonization, of that mix between these all of these native communities and also from Spain. And we weren't independent until September 16, 1810. This is important since the cultural exchange that happened is one of the reasons why Mexican gastronomy is considered cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO. So I'm going to mention some examples of how that that exchange has impacted food from other places. Chocolate is actually from Mexico. It was used as the Mayas as a way of paying, like as a coin. And when Spain came here, they loved it and they added sugar. They would eat the cocoa with spices and sometimes honey to make it sweeter. And that's how it was known to the world. And I just added a picture here of chocolate abuelita because this is a chocolate that everyone drinks. If someone asks you for chocolate, it's most likely chocolate abuelita. It's Nestle, but it was created and distributed here in Mexico. And it's the one that everyone expects to drink. Now, tomate y tomatillo mexicano, or tomato and Mexican husk tomato, we call this tomatillo. And this tomato is not originated from Mexico. It's actually from Andes, I believe, but it was domesticated here. And that's how Spain found it. And they brought to the rest of the world. And tomatillo is originated from here. It's fully Mexican, and that's how we make our green sauce. Gum is also Mexican. It was used by the Mayas and the Aztecs, and it's taken from a tree called jicozapote. Now there's a lot more ways that people have gum. Like sometimes it's even, I read that even made of plastic, but this is the original way. Avocado, I think the impact of avocado is undeniable. It's very popular. And I've seen that in the US right now, avocado toast is very popular. And yeah, you can have a carne asada without guacamole. Then chiles, well, Chile is also undeniable, its importance. When I was looking up the info to make this presentation, I felt kind of silly that I didn't know some chiles were the same. Like they were different types, but it's actually like the same one but dried. And I felt really dumb because I had no idea some of these were the same one. So there's 59 native varieties of corn or maize. Maize is extremely important to Mexican culture. Is one of the things that we eat the most, and our ancestors, it was the thing that they ate the most. They venerated it, and it was also a food of the gods. And there's 50 native varieties of frijoles, beans. In most Mexican households, just not to generalize, but in most Mexican households, there's always a pot of beans. At least in my family, I have a very, very large family. We're more than 40 on Christmas. and sorry, and there's always a pot of beans in everyone's household. I've seen this meme a lot on the internet, uh, where someone asks their mom to go to McDonald's or just to go eat out. And the mom replies, no, we have food at home. And they have like a ridiculous picture like this, or just someone upset. And I've always seen the Mexican version, and it's always with beans. I've never seen it with the ridiculous food like the previous slide. It's always with beans because it's the thing that traditionally everyone always has at home. Oh, and there's these type of beans that are called party beans, frijoles de fiesta, that are made with chorizo or like a lot of cheese, and they're so good, but they're not healthy whatsoever. So they're called party beans for a reason. You only have them at parties. And then nopales. So nopales is cactus, pretty much cacti. We eat them a lot with vegetables as a side dish, and also a lot of people have them with eggs as breakfast. Now I'm going to talk about tortillas in Mexican food. So tortillas are the most basic ingredient of Mexican food. In the north, flour tortillas are most common, and in the south, corn, but we all eat both. Quick disclaimer, there are foods that are traditional of different states, but also there's lots of foods that everyone eats. So tortillas grandes, these are specifically from Sonora. They are very giant. They're a lot thinner, but they are extremely good. And these are the ones you get when you buy percherones or perches, or burros percherones, which are the giant burritos, and they are very popular here. So this is a percheron. They're actually one of my favorite foods. So like on the weekends, when you're like out with your friends, most people always get a perche or they will get a hot dog. Like that's what everyone loves. So other examples of tortillas in Mexican dishes are, so if you take a tortilla and you fill it up with cheese or cheese and carne asada and beans or some other combination, this is a quesadilla. Fun fact, here in Hermosillo, when you say quesadilla, you know, quesadilla is the combination of queso and tortilla, so it obviously has cheese. But in Mexico City, you can say, I want a quesadilla with no cheese or with cheese. And it's not a taco, it's a quesadilla with cheese or no cheese. Then we'll obviously tacos. So our carne asada tacos are usually this full with lots and lots of guacamole and tomato and the veggies. And here we have some, they look like tongue maybe, but breakfast tacos usually have cilantro and onion. Tacos de carne asada are a Sonora specialty, so these are made of beef. And like I already mentioned, here raising cattle is a very important part of Sonora and generally in the north, but especially from Sonora. So yeah, we have a lot of beef. And then if you take a taco, okay, sorry, I'll check the chat. If you take a taco and then you fry it, now you have a taco dorado, which means golden taco. And these are mostly filled with chicken or potatoes, but not always. They can be filled with meat. And they usually have cream and cheese and lettuce on top. Or cabbage. Oh, sorry, I'm having issues. Won't go to the next one.
No problem. Linda, while you're figuring out the how to get the next slide, I'll just kind of ask a quick question because this is like, I'm a huge fan of Mexican food. I'm sure most of the people on this chat are, just like many Americans are. But what's so fascinating for me from what you presented so far is, you know, you mentioned how diverse Mexico is as a people and the culture. and really the food, I think, reflects that, right? Like it's this blend of to me, it seems this way of, you know, indigenous foods and Spanish cooking traditions. And you mentioned the Mennonites, you know, which we have here in the US as well. And I just find that so fascinating that it's like this blend of different cultures and ingredients and influences.
Yeah, it's very diverse. There's a lot more indigenous roots in the South, also because of the closeness to the US. So food is a lot more varied there than here in the North. But yeah, like all food is very good.
Yeah, this presentation is making me hungry.
Me too. Then larger tacos dorados are called flautas, which means flute, and that's because of the size, you know. Then if tacos dorados or flautas are drenched in salsa or sauce, this now becomes an enchilada. They can be red or green, and they can be spicy or non-spicy. No, these are one of my favorite foods. And chilaquiles. And chilaquiles is very similar to broken in pieces enchilada because to me it looks like an unassembled enchilada, and that might cause controversy. But to me it is because one, you have like the chicken inside and then it's wrapped up and you put the sauce on top, and in here it's separated. But of course it can be very different because a lot of these recipes vary on the type of chile, for example. And also the enchilada, the tortilla has softened because of the sauce. But here in the chilaquiles, they are mostly, not always, fried. The tortillas are fried beforehand. So they are more like chips. So Mexican food is not only tacos. I just really wanted to show how important tortillas are to Mexican food because they are a part of everything, or mostly everything. But other traditional Sonoran dishes are kawamanta. It's actually called kawamanta because it was in between turtle and manta ray. But since turtles now are endangered, because it was before they were endangered, now it's illegal to hunt them. So now it's just manta ray and shrimp soup. And camarones a la diabla, they are shrimp a la diabla, which are spicy shrimp. And here's carne seca, which is dried meat, and machaca. Carne seca, there's not much to it, it's just dried beef. And you can eat it like by itself. I love to just take pieces of carne seca and eat it like that. It's a very, very tasty snack. And machaca is rehydrated carne seca, and you can, like, here we eat it a lot with eggs as breakfast, but you can also eat it with vegetables. I know in the north, there's a lot of, it's very Tex-Mex. So, and also in Arizona, they might have things like this. So maybe this is not foreign at all, and you know this very well. Not exactly this, but some of this. Then we have menudo and pozole. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of menudo. I know a lot of people are. But it has cow stomach, and it's kind of, the texture is kind of slimy or very soft. And I'm not such a huge fan, but like the rest of the soup is very, very good. And here pozole, it's pretty much corn soup. And this one too, but this one is a lot more thick, and it usually has more vegetables. Like people often add half a corn cup in there, like just on top, and potatoes, carrots, stuff like that. And pozole is just like big corn, and you can add onion and cilantro if you want, and lime. I always add tons of lime. Then dogos sonorenses. I don't know if you know this, but in Sonora, hot dogs are, we don't call them hot dogs, we call them dogos. They are extremely, extremely popular, mostly here in Hermosillo. But they are not like the regular hot dogs, they are very, very big. Like you eat them and you're extremely full. And they give you a chile here on the side, chile güerito, and it's filled with cheese and wrapped in bacon. And this one is just like it's not wrapped, but it's usually like this, and fries. And it usually has two sausages, or one. It depends on the place, but it's very big, and you always have tons and tons of options. I've never seen someone not add like guacamole or just like a ton of stuff. So yeah, they are pretty popular. There's ones that they are called Dogos del Miami. There's many, but these ones are the most popular here in Hermosillo. I've seen long lines at 4 in the morning because they're open sometimes until 6, and they're in front of a movie theater. So like these Dogos in Miami. So one of my favorite things to do is go to the movie theater and then cross the street and have a Dogo Sonorense. That's what I did yesterday when I watched Spider-Man, and it's one of my favorite things to do. Then coyotas, these are also native from Sonora. They are pretty much, they're empanadas, and they're filled with whole cane sugar, piloncillo. And I have family from Mexico City, and when they come, they specifically come from, they don't come for coyotas, but they like to look for them because they really, really like them. They're very good. These are some options of pan dulce. For example, this is called a puerquito, which means little pig. And this is called a tortuga, which means turtle. And these are the names because I believe how they look. The concha wasn't there, so I had to add it because it's very, very traditional. And concha means conch. So, and I believe the name is because of how it looks as well. They're also very good. And you usually have them with chocolate bonito. So now I'm gonna talk about Mexican dishes at different celebrations. So in Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, you don't like really eat anything because the offerings are for the people that have passed away. And I just wanted to mention that in the ofrenda, you put the person who passed away, their favorite food. And that's usually something that's very traditional Mexican. For example, my late grandma loved tacos dorados. I heard that she would sit down and eat an entire can of tacos dorados. So we will always add a huge plate of that. But some things that can't miss are water, coffee, and sometimes people add a crust of salt on the front. And fun fact, people in the north, because of the closeness to the US, at least in Sonora, take Halloween a lot more seriously. That's the truth. We do celebrate Day of the Dead, but I've heard some people in the South don't even celebrate Halloween. And they are always very, very focused on Day of the Dead. They might even have a room dedicated to the ofrenda. But in here, like my family members, they make an ofrenda like in their living room, and they don't have a room for that. And people are always more focused on Halloween. I almost forgot. We always also, something that is always in the ofrenda is Pandemoerto, which is also a pan dulce, and it has like these little bones in here, and it's also very, very good. And here, these calaveritas de azúcar, they are sugar skulls. Then Navidad en Posadas, Christmas and Posadas. So Posadas, people here have Posadas for everything. Like you might have a Posada at school, then you might have another one later that day at work, and then you might have another one with your family, and just Posada after Posada after Posada with every group of people that you can imagine. And what you usually do, like my friends had a Posada with their gym, and they didn't know each other, but they had a really fun time. And they usually just break a piñata. They have tamales or carne asada. And yeah, it's very fun, and Mexico is very Catholic, so usually schools take this as an opportunity, like in the US, to do pastorela, the recreation of Jesus' birth. And also in here, and also in Christmas is the traditional thing to have tamales, but people also have turkey or whatever they want, but the most likely that they will have is tamales. Then Dia de la Candelaria, I'm not sure if this exists in the US or in other countries. It might. I really don't know. But Dia de la Candelaria is February 2nd, I believe. Well, the three kings, los tres reyes magos, they supposedly come and they bring you gifts like Santa does. In the south, they get the three kings, and in here in the north, we get Santa, but we do celebrate Dia de la Candelaria. And you have these rosca de reyes. They sell them everywhere, like when the day is coming, like at Costco, Walmart, and like bakeries everywhere. And they have these plastic baby Jesus, and you have to eat them. And if you get a baby Jesus, then you have to pay for the tamales. So if there's 10 people and 3 got a baby Jesus, then they are the ones that have to get the tamales for the Candelaria. So it's just an excuse to eat more tamales, which is great. And I think finally, mornings and parties. So usually when there is a celebration like a wedding or New Year's Eve morning or whatever in the morning, you will have menudo. Like menudo is the breakfast. And parties, it's always carne asada. Like it's mostly carne asada. Like if it's after 6 or 5. And here, oh sorry. Also for parties, you might have menudo, but no, sorry, this is pozole. You might have pozole menudo, and also a lot of barbacoa. And this is pasta, potatoes, and party beans. Yeah, for mostly birthday parties that are in the afternoon and like not after 6, this is like the plate you will get. And here I have a little compilation that I recorded myself of food clips from here in Hermosillo, Sonora. I recorded it at Plaza Zaragoza, which is where the cathedral is at, which I showed at the beginning. And also I recorded this at home and at the Dogos.
Okay, so I am starting off this video showing atole, which is a hot beverage made with corn flour. Here the flavor is chocolate. I really enjoy it. Here I am at a family gathering where I recorded this delicious plate of menudo, which is the corn soup that I mentioned earlier. Lots of onion, just how I like it, and lots of lime. Here is my grandma stirring the mole, which we ate right here. Mole with chicken, obviously, and the red rice, which was very good. This one was actually pretty pale. It's not usually like that, but it's very good. Nopales and tortillas. Here there's a tamal, corn tamal with beans, and it's actually filled with spinach and cheese as well. Here I'm just showing off the Cathedral, which is the place where I went to record some street food because it's full of stands, and that's just the center of the plaza. And here are a few of those food stands, but it's a lot bigger than this. So here this really nice man was making my gordita. It's pretty much a Mexican pancake. You can fill it up with whatever you want. I always like to add Nutella or Nutella in Philadelphia, and that's what I did, Nutella in Philadelphia. I really like them. Here I'm having some atole, which I bought at the plaza, and that's a corn cocktail, has lots of cheese and butter. It's incredible. And there I just added some chile. It's one of my favorite street foods. It's so warm and cozy. It's really good for winter. There I was having some tacos al pastor, and that's a close-up. I added lots of onion again and pineapple. And last but not least, Los dogos del Miami, which I already mentioned, are extremely popular and so good. I absolutely love them. And here I'm recording a friend adding cheese to his fries. And that's another hot dog. Here we call them dogos, not hot dogs. So incredible.
Yes, so that's pretty much it. This is the end of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Linda. That was so awesome. I wasn't ready for your videos to end, especially the music started kicking up and I was ready to keep going. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was super interesting. I want to make sure that our audience can ask any questions that they might have of you. So I'd like to go ahead and open that up for questions. Just if somebody wants to go ahead and ask first, if we get a lot of people asking at the same time, I may ask you guys to use your hands. But for now, if anybody has a question, go ahead.
I can ask a question. Linda, I was wondering, you mentioned about tortillas and just how important they are, you know, to the culture of food, right? So I'm curious if you've ever made tortillas from scratch or if your family members have done that and what that process was like.
Yes, actually, I've never made them, but I've seen how they're made all the time. My grandma makes tortillas like every day, like in the morning to have them warm, and sometimes before lunch to have them warm to eat. And I know a lot of people do that, especially Hermosillo has a lot of towns, like I think they're called towns, pueblos, like or villages, I'm not sure, all around. And people from these pueblos, they are very used to doing tortillas like 5 in the morning. And so yeah, a lot of people from here, that's what they do. And I see a question from chat. Why was there mustard and ketchup in the background?
When you showed the burritos, why was there mustard and ketchup in the background?
I think it means lettuce. I'm gonna look.
And it might have been something else.
I was wondering if that was the hot dogs.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, there's mustard and ketchup, but you don't need that with the hot dogs. Most likely the place also sells something else. So yeah, but you have with those breadsticks, you have cream, and then you have avocado sauce with cilantro, and you might have soy sauce and this spicy sauce, but I don't know what chile is it made from.
Have you heard of breakfast tacos? That's one thing that we do in Texas in the US. Have you heard of that?
Like breakfast burritos or just tacos that you have in the morning?
Yeah, we have like breakfast tacos. So we have tortillas and it's usually with scrambled eggs and probably like bacon or cheese or potatoes. It's like a big thing in Texas. I'm wondering if you guys have something that's similar to that.
Like I've never seen that they sell them, but I have them all the time.
Yeah.
I saw them online and I recreated one with like a hash brown inside, and it was
Nice.
really good. Yeah, but I've never seen them being sold. What they is sold all the time in the street are machaca burritos. Those are like the to-go breakfast, the burritos with the dried meat inside.
Nice.
So I noticed, so during your presentation, like there were a lot of things that obviously like, I'm like, oh yeah, I've had that, like tacos, for example, a lot of the Mexican foods that have influenced American culture now, but there were also a lot of dishes that I've never tried before, which is really cool. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of Americans. Like we really think of Mexican food mainly as like the tortillas and tacos and stuff like that. So I would like to ask you, Linda, like, what do you think are some of the key ways that Mexican food here in the US is maybe different or changed from what the authentic version is in Mexico? And I know it's such a broad cuisine that that's probably a tough question to answer, but like, what are some of the key things that you've seen that you're like, yeah, that's probably not like how we would do it here?
I've noticed a lot of Mexican food in the US is like a lot more processed. Like I've seen the pictures of Taco Bell, and I've seen that Taco Bell, like the tortilla is hard. Like I don't know why you would have a taco with a hard tortilla. Like that doesn't sound appetizing to me, but I've never had them. Maybe they're amazing. And also, here we don't have tacos with lettuce. Like that's not a thing. We have them with cabbage, and it's usually like lettuce we might have with tacos dorados, you know, but like tacos of carne asada, you will not have them with lettuce. You will have them with very little cabbage, so they don't overpower the meat. So yeah, I always see that, and I think it's weird, like why they do the tortilla like that. So yeah, that's what came to my mind. Taco Bell is kind of gross. I've never had them, so I have no idea what it tastes like. Maybe it's really good.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, it looks different.
Yeah, so I grew up, we were chatting, Linda, before the presentation together about this, but so I grew up in an area of the US where we had very little Mexican food. I mean, if you did, it was mainly Taco Bell. Like, so for most of my life, I never really had it until I became an adult. And then I moved to California and Texas. And obviously now that's just part of like my life is going to Mexican restaurants. But yeah, like I grew up eating tacos and it was like lettuce, hard shells, and ground beef, like hamburger beef. And so I don't think that's probably authentic at all, but that's like what we thought Mexican food was where I grew up.
Yeah, the ground beef, I hadn't thought of that. It's very different here. Like you have to,
Yeah.
well, you don't have to, but you cook it in carbon. That's coal. Coal. You cook it over the parrilla with coal, and that's why it also has like that distinct barbecue taste. Not ground beef. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. Also, I just want to briefly mention that yes, even though like we all Mexicans have the most traditional foods, in the South there is a lot more variety. Some foods that for me are weird, for them are very normal. When my family comes here, once they brought champulines. I don't remember. They're like the big crickets. I don't remember how they're called in English. But I hate insects. They really, really gross me out. And they were having them like chips. And I was freaked out because they wanted to give me one, but I couldn't. And it's just so normal to people in the South to have insects. And in the North, people don't do that. At least not in Sonora.
Yeah, I was reading about that actually. That so you said it's mainly in the southern regions of Mexico where there will be more insects that are kind of included as snacks. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. I've actually had fried grasshoppers and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, grasshoppers.
It's not something you usually see here. And I've also had some mole with like ants in it. It was an Oaxacan restaurant. I'm pretty bad at Spanish, but they actually put like ants in the mole, and that was pretty good.
Never had that. I do have like family that does like to eat like crickets in little bags, like plastic bags, like snack, but it's not like that regular here.
Right. It's so interesting. Do we have any other questions from the audience at all? Feel free to type them into the chat or feel free to ask. All right, and so as we're kind of waiting to see if anyone else has any questions, I would just like kind of your advice in general, Linda. What advice would you give to somebody traveling to Sonora for the first time from the US? Do you have any general tips and advice? Like what should they look for? What might they do? What should they expect?
This is kind of sad, but I would say talk to someone who is from here so they tell you where not to go because some of the pueblos have narcos, and like my family knows what place to avoid, but maybe someone that is foreign might not know, and they might just think, oh, like I will go visit, and because there's places that are taken over by narcos and like you can't go. I don't remember the place, but there's actually I think there's a city where like the government shuts off their electricity to the entire city so the narcos will leave and they don't. Like it's pretty sad. So I will say to ask someone who's from here for advice and what places to avoid because Mexico is very beautiful and it's very safe if you know which places to avoid. And people are very kind, they're very warm. So if something were to happen and you were in public, like people will defend you. And you can make great friends here. And also, as for food, I would say, well, try tacos. Try tacos. Sonora is the absolute best place for tacos. If you want more traditional things, you should maybe go to the south. But for tacos, like Sonora is the place for you.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. That's great advice. We have one more question that just came in, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Somebody asked, what is your favorite seasoning to use?
Chipotle. I really like chipotle sauce on everything, like quesadillas, tacos, and even those. Like I really like chipotle.
I love, you said Chipotle, right?
Chipotle.
Yeah. I am also a huge fan of Chipotle and anything chilies. And that's another thing that I think everybody in the world who likes spice, we can all thank Mexico for that, because that's really where I think chilies came from originally, right?
Yeah.
I believe, yeah. Thank you so much, Linda. This has been such an interesting presentation, just a wealth of knowledge. And I really appreciate how you kind of took us through, you showed us the different foods and you tied it all back into culture and history. It was really fascinating. I just want to thank you so much. And I want to encourage our listeners to feel free to interact with Linda. She's on World Sprout, so feel free to ask her questions. And again, Linda, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity, because I know I look young because I'm young. So thank you so much for trusting me to do this presentation. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. You did an amazing presentation. And that's what it's about, right? Like getting different people's perspectives on food. And food's such a fascinating topic because it's part of culture and it's part of history and it's part of people's experience. So we really thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. And one final note. So for those of you who are really interested now in continuing these food discussions, actually next week, we're going back to Rajasthan next Wednesday. And we have a really special event where we have our host will actually be teaching us how to cook a special Indian dish. And this isn't something you can Google by yourself unless you speak his specific language. And so they're actually going to teach us how to make a dish. So if you're interested in sharpening up your Indian cooking skills, please tune in for that next Wednesday. Again, thank you everybody for attending.